What geopolitical play has unfolded at the SCO Summit? What are the strategic takeaways from Tianjin Declaration, and has India mastered the Eurasian chessboard? In a summit which is crowded with superpowers, India has made its own mark. Where it has not compromised with its own sovereignty, it took a clear stance against terrorism, and it also balanced the East and West, showing that how in a multipolar world you can stand with your identity by a proper strategy followed with diplomacy. Hello everyone, welcome to Vajiram and Ravi's Flash News. My name is Shubhangi Singh, and today we are going to understand the key takeaways from the SCO Summit that have come for India. What are the strategic gains? What are the diplomatic wins? We will be decoding all of this. So let us start with understanding that what have been the main key highlights of this particular summit for India. The first one has to be definitely the stance that has India taken against terrorism. So when we are talking about such a summit, it becomes an important platform for voicing concerns like these, and PM Modi has gone ahead and highlighted the fact that terrorism is a collective challenge to humanity, and he has also warned that there can't be any double standards against terrorism. This is a direct reference to the fact when the world leaders had gathered in China before, how our country decided not to sign the final declaration only because our main key concern was not highlighted, and that was taken up by Rajnath Singh back then. But this time in the Tianjin Declaration, there was a key highlight and a strong statement which condemned all forms of terrorism, and there were a specific reference to Pahalgam attack, which was an important diplomatic win for India. In this very scenario, this directly has been attributed to Pakistan-based group, but there has been no mention of Pakistan as such in the declaration. But when we talk about this stance that has been taken in the declaration, it becomes an important message which comes with its own strategic impacts. The first thing, that all the countries who have signed the declaration come on the same page, and they will be held equally responsible against the acts of terrorism if they take place in future, which they shouldn't. So in this very case, it definitely brings China, Russia and especially Pakistan in a joint anti-terror stance, and especially with this country, it would be focused on the fact that they are staying on the stance that they are going to focus on not terrorism but anti-terror. So it also brings up greater space for better cooperation, especially for SCO's RATS, that is Regional Anti-Terrorist Structure, Shanghai Cooperation Organization, very own anti-terrorism structure. So this gives more weightage to this, and it brings up more space for better cooperation under this particular structure. Furthermore, it directly enhances India's global positioning as a leading voice when we are talking about anti-terror efforts. It is not just in form of taking efforts internally, but voicing it and coming together to address this vile act which is happening against humanity. The second takeaway that comes from this summit is that India stood for its sovereignty clear and out loud. This was only country, India was the only country which did not go ahead and endorsed Belt and Road Initiative of China. It is very clear that CPEC, that is China-Pakistan Economic Corridor, passes through India's Pakistan-occupied Kashmir, and India stands for its own sovereignty, and that's why it was the only country in this whole summit which did not endorse BRI. Rather, it suggested alternatives such as INSTC, which is International North-South Transport Corridor, where it will give connectivity to Central Asia and Europe. And if you see the standard route which comes through Suez Canal, in this comparison, INSTC will facilitate that the time of transportation will cut down by 40 to 50 days. Furthermore, the freight cost, when we are talking, it will reduce by 30%. So India is not only going in the other direction, but it is giving alternatives which will respect sovereignty, and it will also focus on economic benefits. Apart from this, another main key point here is the Chabar port in Iran, because India has its strategic foothold, especially in there, and this is our key to bypass Pakistan. Furthermore, India has a 10-year operating deal which gives us direct access to Afghanistan and Central Asia, and in this scenario we do not need to go via Pakistan to access Central Asia. So Iran becomes our focal center, and this is also part of INSTC. So we are part of a global route, and this will also facilitate our own purposes as well. So this is a direct indication that India is here with alternatives which does not hurt and bypasses anybody's sovereignty, and it is also present with an option which is a direct counterweight to China's Belt and Road Initiative. Another important development is something that we have to understand indirectly, that is the fact that India did a very well structured strategic balancing between East and the West. When we are talking about India-China relationship, it is seen that it is improving. Post Galwan Valley incident, we have found that India has resumed its trade through Lipu Lake Pass. There is a resumption of Kailash Mansarovar Yatra as well. There is a resumption of flights as well. But the fact that India remains cautious, because we also have a trade deficit of almost $100 billion with China. So partnering up with China like an all-time ally is going to cost us more, and you can understand this in detail in the last video that I have done. So this is in a improving state, but where it goes cannot be seen. But when we are talking about India-Russia relations, we have a very strong hold in this particular position, because we have all sorts of energy and defense cooperation going on with Russia that is on a very strong position, because for which India is still being targeted in terms of US tariff, but India has not budged from it, because it calls for our financial sovereignty, and we will do what benefits our economy, our people, and we are going to protect it. But furthermore, there is expansion of exports in terms of textile, machinery, human resources that has been seen. So this is one point where we remain in a positive situation. But at the same time, both of these relations cannot lead to a questionable position with reference to the West. And that is why India has maintained a balance between Quad and SCO, and a good example here where India is not going to be part of the World War II parade that is going to be taking place in Beijing, and that shows that India still is respecting the sentiments of its ally, that is Japan. So it is basically practicing multi-alignment and with wholesome focus on making sure that the national interest remains at the very focal point of it. Another important development that took place in this summit was the conversation about SCO Development Bank. So the whole idea of this bank, which was proposed by China and Russia, is that there will be funding of regional connectivity and infrastructure that can take place very close to the format of AIIB. Now, the whole idea where India did not rightly dive into agreeing to it, India decided to take a cautious stance that it has concerns over this whole mechanism, because it will have a direct overlap. The SCO Development Bank will have a direct overlap with AIIB, it will also have an overlap with NDB, that is New Development Bank, and it will also, in contradiction to other Western banks, Western owned alliances that exist, so it is going to contradict. So the idea is to avoid overlapping and maximize the usage of present institutions. So it emphasized on making sure transparency, debt sustainability and respect for sovereignty in finance, basically directly hinting at the fact that SCO Development Bank could be a way of further focusing on debt traps which have been seen by China in not just Sri Lanka but in the multiple countries of Central Asia as well. So basically, India is being a voice which talks about responsible lending, and it cannot directly jump into one bank to another, and it also prevents SCO bank from becoming financial tool which China uses for its BRI model. So this is the whole idea where India is not endorsing BRI. It cannot also endorse mechanism which will facilitate BRI, and furthermore the whole idea is to focus on responsible lending where other nations have the sovereignty in finance as well. And there is no as such urgent need because such mechanisms do exist in form of NDB or AIIB. So the whole purpose of it needs to be seen, understood, and a cautious approach needs to be maintained. India has clearly highlighted that as well. All in all, when we talk about the major key outputs that have been seen, apart from that, India has also focused on the fact that it has to align with neighbors. The Act East policy, where our Prime Minister met Myanmar's military chief, it ensured India's presence in the areas China is trying to rapidly grow its influence. So that means as much as we are eager to partner equally with China, we are still focusing on the fact that we run our own country. We are still aiming to be a global power and our voice cannot be taken away. So similarly, the brotherhood that we wanted would be maintained, and we would try to facilitate countries around us where China's expanding influence can actually hurt the national sovereignty over other countries as well. If we talk about the diplomatic wins, the first one will be definitely the Tianjin Declaration, which mentions the Pahalgam terror attack, then the non-endorsement of BRI and the India being the only country to do that, and also definitely the normalization of India-China ties in such chaotic present order. But the main important thing is that we need to focus on the bigger picture. The bigger picture which highlights the fact that India has emerged as an independent power broker in Eurasia, and that's why we are saying that India has seemingly mastered Eurasian chessboard, where it has very beautifully strategically balanced West and East, and it clearly shows India's ability that it can focus on security, connectivity and economic diplomacy without compromising on its autonomy. Now that was all on my side. If you have any comments, you can let me know in the comment section. That was all. Thank you so much.